From 1897 to 1917, Storyville was one of the first of the Tenderloin districts after the swamp started to decline. Spanning a 16-block radius, Iberville to St. Louis and North Robertson to North Basin streets. Named after Sidney Story, a councilman who in 1897 enacted a city ordinance designating a confined area for prostitution. Lining Basin Street were saloons catering to the more discerning customers, and mansions which offered beds, gambling, drinking, entertainment, and ladies for the evening. Storyville has often been credited for the beginnings of jazz. Most of Storyville was torn down to make way for the Iberville projects. Only 3 buildings of that era remain. The exact date of Lulu's birth is not known. Part of Lulu's charm was that the general public of New Orleans didn't quite know where she was from. Was she from Cuba, Jamaica? Lulu on different occasions would lay claim to each, although she was actually born on a farm in Alabama in 1868. She was of mixed race and enjoyed, for a time at least, an affluence rare for Creoles of color in that era. She got her start posing for pornographic photos in the 1880s, and in 1894 established her high-end bordello, Mahogany Hall in Storyville. The sumptuous Octoroon Parlor, located at 235 Basin Street, was a 4-story house that reportedly cost $40,000 to build, about $1.2 million in 2020. She ran the brothel until its forcible closure in 1917. In 1929, the structure afterwards sold for only $11,000. This famous West Indian octoroon first saw the light of day 31 years ago. Arriving in this country at a rather tender age, and having been fortunately gifted with a good education, it did not take long for her to find out what the other sex were in search of. In describing Miss Lulu, as she is most familiarly called, it would not be amiss to say that besides possessing an elegant form, she has beautiful black hair and blue eyes, which have justly gained for her the title of Queen of the Demi-Monde. Her establishment, which is situated in the central part of the city, is unquestionably the most elaborately furnished house in the city of New Orleans, and without a doubt one of the most elegant places in this or in any other country. She has made a feature of boarding none but the fairest of girls, those gifted with nature's best charms, and would, under no circumstances, have any but that class in her house. As an entertainer, Miss Lulu stands foremost, having made a lifelong study of music and literature. She is well read and one that can interest anybody and make a visit to her place a continued round of pleasure. And when adding that she would be pleased to see all her old friends and make new ones, what more could be added? Lulu White found her way to Storyville from Alabama in 1880. Having been born in Selma, she moved to Louisiana with a long list of petty offenses. From that less than auspicious start, she quickly used her talents to her advantage. After realizing there was a gap in the market and that she was lacking any serious rivals. As well as running Mahogany Hall, her other lucrative venture was Lulu White's Salon, which catered to some of the most prominent and wealthiest men in the area. Her love of extravagant jewelry earned her the nickname, the Queen of Storyville. America, in the early part of the 19th century, still reassured Americans that by hard work, honesty, well, maybe not always honesty, and a bit of luck, anyone could rise from humble circumstances to achieve greatness, or at least a comfortable living. Businessmen had come from all over to New Orleans to make their fortunes. The New South desire to develop the region along the lines of northern industry created new opportunities for go-getters. Lulu knew what most of these men needed after a hard day's dealings. She could make their dreams come true at Mahogany Hall, as she had plenty of her own. Her baubles were so lavish that they were aptly described by a wit at the time. To see her at night is like witnessing the electrical display of the St. Louis Exposition, which was quoted in the Blue Book, which was a directory for brothels and prostitutes. She herself preferred the title the Diamond Queen and claimed to have the largest private jewelry collection in the South. Lulu exploited the term exotic, proudly touting that all of her prostitutes were 1/8 black. Lulu White's marketing of the quadroon myth was artful. She tapped into the rhetoric that had established the antebellum figure to recreate an aura of exoticism that had an irresistible appeal. White advertised herself as a West Indian octoroon and declared of her prostitutes, "All are born and bred Louisiana girls," preserving the illusion of the quadroon's tropical provenance. One can almost imagine her cribbing from Carl Bernhard or Joseph Holt Ingraham, as she catalogued in herself and her employees the stock attributes of the perfect quadroon. She claimed to have made a lifelong study of music and literature, like the legendary antebellum quadroons. White and her girls were presented as models of Circassian beauty. The madam herself claimed an elegant form and beautiful black hair and blue eyes, and touted her employee Georgie Wilson as fair, blue eyes, a typical blonde. Only the finest wines and liquors were served to guests, including Roederer and Mumm French champagne. According to publicity pamphlets of the time, Mahogany Hall was inhabited by 40 women. The official brochure for the house also stated that it had 5 parlours, one of which was a mirrored parlour, and 15 bedrooms, each with its own adjoining bathroom. Famous Storyville photographer E.J. Belloc's surviving photographs of the house attest to its abundance of elegant furnishings, huge chandeliers and potted ferns. The building housed several expensive oil paintings, Tiffany stained glass windows and other works of art. Other such pamphlets featured photographs and condensed biographies of each of the octoroon girls. They also contained an alleged photo portrait of Lulu White, but it was actually of another girl, Victoria Hall, one of the famous octoroons. Aside from Miss Hall, other known residents of Mahogany Hall included Emma Sears, the coloured Carmencita, Clara Miller, Estill Russell, Sadie Reed and Sadie Levy, not forgetting Kid Ross. Tony Jackson and Jelly Roll Morton were among the pianists who performed for the clients in Mahogany Hall. Eventually, authorities in 1917 clamped down hard on prostitution in Storyville. Lulu fell foul of the law. She opened a brothel too close to a military base and subsequently served 3 years in jail. After getting pardoned by President Woodrow Wilson, White went right back to what she knew. She opened up another brothel and stayed in business until her death. Unfortunately, although she had earned a small fortune in those lucrative years, she was involved in bad business dealings, losing over $150,000. She died penniless in 1931, aged 63. Mahogany Hall was demolished on November the 22nd, 1949. The bottom part of Lulu White's salon is all that remains of these businesses. Mahogany Hall was immortalized in Mahogany Hall Stomp, which has been recorded by Louis Armstrong among others. Well, my dear friends, I hope you enjoyed that. I did. I did because I don't know about you, but I love that sort of rags to riches story. Someone coming from an impoverished background with little to no education, not having any affluent or connected family, and managing to really get so wealthy. Of course, she did it with prostitution, There's been a need for this since biblical times, regardless of how much it annoys the moralists and the Bible bashers, but that's the way it is. She provided that service for these men, and she made a lot of money out of it. Good on her. She didn't kill anyone, although she did stab someone. I wonder what the story is behind that. Did you see that? I'll put it up on the screen here. Yeah, I guess you have to be tough in that business, really. I was really cheering her on. I was very quite sad to hear that she went bankrupt. She must have thought she would make a lot more money with the stocks or something, and she should have stuck to what she knew best. What a shame. What a shame that she died penniless, but wow, she gave it a go. She gave it a go, and she's managed to be sort of immortalized. She now goes down in New Orleans history. I find that quite wonderful. By the way, if you're wondering who Victoria Hall is, the one that posed for the photo that was supposed to be Lulu White, that's her on the top left. I couldn't find any clear images of her though in my searches, so that's all I could find really about her. By the way, if you're wondering what Lulu White's saloon, as opposed to the Mahogany Hall, this was her saloon bar, or salon bar, this is what it looked like. Yeah, I guess this must have been even then when it was run down and possibly even abandoned. Yeah, the windows appear to be boarded up. So I don't know if there's any surviving photos of how it looked in its heyday. If you want to know what it looks like now, yeah, well, check out the next photo. Yeah, it's a bit of a shame, isn't it? Well, I hope the Basin Seafood and Grill are doing well, even if they're still there. Yeah, it's a shame it hasn't sort of got, at least got a plaque on the wall, or maybe it has. Can you tell me any New Orleans residents whether there's a shield or a plaque dedicated to Lulu White? Mind you, I'm guessing it wasn't such a glorious establishment to begin with. I don't know. I wasn't able to find out actually how the bar looked inside, so I don't know about that. Well, I found this fabulous photo, isn't that great, of the Storyville area, and you can see Basin Street there, where Lulu's establishments were. Really nice photo, that. I like that photo, so clear. Anyway, my friends, I'm going to sign off now. I'm going to start next month's video now. I've got RSI in the hand. I'm struggling on valiantly. I'm getting old, my dear friends. So I'm going to love you and leave you, and I'll catch up with you next time. Have fun. Hope you enjoyed the story. Looking forward to reading your comments. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.